All right, Ian, the fine folks at Blaze sent us both an Evercade Handheld.
Yeah.
Review copies. Thanks to them for doing that. And we played them, and we're gonna give our thoughts and a review of it. They also sent us a few extra games besides the 3 packed in the box. So we got some game carts, some multi carts.
So I will say, I mean, this is a year after it came out. We're not exactly on the cutting edge here, but it's important to bring up because some of my concerns, I think, with the system are actually being addressed in the months going forward. We can bring up. So when the Evercade was announced, I honestly just thought it was another, I'm gonna be honest, another garbage emulation device. Didn't really have a whole lot of interest in it. I thought that they were doing cartridges was neat.
Sure.
It came out immediately. There were some less than stellar reviews. The buttons were backwards, etc.
The B and A were swapped.
But Blaze, to their credit, got a firmware update out very quickly that fixed that, so that the B and A were normal again. The unit itself, from what my experience with the actual unit, is that it's pretty solid.
Solid.
I like the way it feels. I like the
cheap.
buttons. I love the D-pad. I adore the D-pad. Adore the D-pad. The buttons feel nice. The shoulder buttons are a little like Sega Saturn-y clicky. I'm not like great on those. But it's a nice looking unit, and it feels well built. If you look online, you'll see some reviews that say they've had problems with it. But one thing that I've noticed throughout my research into the Evercade is apparently their customer service is fantastic. If you have a problem, they send you out a new unit just about immediately, so that there's no issues. I like the way the cartridges look, and I like the way the cartridges fit in the back of the system.
Yeah, at first I was like, what direction this goes in? I was like, okay, it makes sense. You see it from the front when you put it in, and when you slide it in, it completes the form factor of the back of the case, but it still has it still has nicely the name on the back. I mean, that's pretty cute. It's smart,
yeah,
to do that.
So I like that about it. The games themselves. This is where.
Oh, I was talking about the console.
Okay,
real quick.
Go for it.
It's a 4.3-inch LCD. Importantly, you could keep it at 4:3 ratio or widescreen, even though. You know, I mean, there's in theory that some of these games, especially the newer ones, like the homebrew ones, can be potentially, I guess, in a widescreen. But it's good to have that option.
Yeah,
it's not, you're not locked into the widescreen LCD because obviously they're probably not manufacturing small LCDs that are 4:3 anymore. No. They're probably all 16:9. That's good. To me, the buttons were fine. I usually don't like the glassier buttons, but they were fine. The D-pad, I wasn't as in love with it with Ian, but it was fine for me. I still don't like circular D-pads with a passion, but it played fine. I played Mappy Kids fine, which we'll get into. I like that the start and select buttons are easily accessible right below the 4 buttons. I didn't use the game with the triggers at all, and the volume was pretty loud.
I almost wish there was one setting lower than the lowest, because the lowest setting is pretty loud on there.
Speaker is fairly beefy for something like this.
Yeah,
and there's an HDMI mini out. I didn't use that, and there's a headphone out as well. Battery life, I looked up online, it was between like 4 and 5 hours.
I think I was getting like 3.5 with heavy play.
Or using like brightness.
I was using the brightest setting.
Okay, that's why. So I usually don't like high bright. I usually go like middle low for my brightness. Like on my cell phone, I don't like super bright. So yeah, substantial. All right, games.
Games seem to be an interesting collection of what's available to license, and then they go from there and they curate it into sometimes fairly interesting packs. I didn't think this was where the Evercade kind of fell apart for me in its initial pitch. Was that a lot of it, like the Namco, there's the Namco cartridges, which I believe are actually only available in the UK. A lot of it was NES versions of games, and I'd rather have the arcade versions of games.
Sure.
But in practice, honestly, picking up and playing the NES version of Mappy for a little while scratches my itch for Mappy. It's fine. They also put some interesting titles on there that you wouldn't normally see, like Star Luster got put on there, which is kind of like a Star Raiders clone by Namco. That was Famicom only, never got a US release. They brought that over here. And then Mappy Kids, which was the first Famicom game I ever owned. There's actually an official translation of it now on the cartridge. It's the first official translation.
On the Namco Museum Collection 1.
And that's not the only game they've done that with. I believe they did it with Magical Drop 2 as well on the Data East collection. It's the first version that was translated into English. I don't think it has all the story mode stuff, but still, it's interesting to see that they're taking these games from other companies that never had an official release over here, doing the translation that's necessary, and bringing it over.
Yeah, that's why it touched on something I didn't think, I guess I didn't appreciate or realize when they announced something like this, is that they're not just grabbing whatever they can, but like you said, like they're putting out something for the first time here we never had a chance to play, like the Mappy Kids, which I did play. I'm like, that's interesting because you're getting the spotlight stuff that people weren't aware of that for whatever reason didn't come out. And that's an interesting part of the equation, which I guess one of the reasons maybe why people are liking this, and there's a growing ecosystem, obviously.
And there's some neat stuff on there, like the Atari cartridge puts Yar's Return on there, which is like a sequel that was made for the Flashback in 2005, I believe. There's also and it's not good, but the prototype for Tempest on the Atari 2600 is on there. So it's not just it's not just the games that you know.
Sure.
I do think that there are some redundancies between the two Atari cartridges because I did order the second one.
Okay.
That, like, so on the first Atari cartridge, you have the 2600 version of a couple of games. Well, on the second one, you get the 7800 version of a couple of games.
I see.
A little bit.
Why not just put them both in the same pack?
Or skip the 2600 version if we're going to get repeats.
Well, I would say put them in the same one. 2700 like Centipede on the same.
So you can compare them, sure. Yeah. But that feels like filler.
Small potatoes.
That feels like filler. What I am most excited about this system for, though, is not the pre-existing collections of stuff that's 15, 20 years old, although that's fun. It's a neat way to see indie developers get their games on physical cartridges and spotlighted on a handheld or on a system that's different than what they normally are. And that to that credit, I have spent a lot of time with the Megacat Studios cartridge since we got it. Now, Megacat Studios, they've done games like they're a publisher and a developer, but they also some of these games they've developed, some of them were developed by outside studios, but games like Coffee Clash, Coffee Crisis, which is fairly well known as a homebrew. There's
Genesis beat 'em up. Yeah.
Yep, there's a couple more beat 'em ups on there. There's that Little Medusa game, Logjammers, which was a popular kind of like Windjammers for the NES game was on there. A lot of little puzzlers, but it's a really good way to get like a taste of the modern indie scene, and that is like especially like the homebrew scene, and that is what they're doing because these are emulators at this point that are included on the cartridge that are running these. So you're getting an idea of what the NES homebrew scene, the Super Nintendo homebrew scene, the Genesis homebrew scene. You're getting a snapshot of all of that,
and they get a physical release, which is cool. These are not games big enough to obviously do like limited run, but like they're
Megacat does physical releases of them.
Yeah, that's true, but maybe not for some of the other ones. You're right about that. But they're also look at the indie stuff. Indie Heroes collection is coming out.
Yeah, that one I would like to pick up.
I got to see where's the game list on that here. You got games like Doodle World, Alien Cat 2, Kubo 3. I'm not familiar with these. No, you are. Twin Dragons, Ploid, Deader, Quest Arrest. So you get a bunch of a chance to see some. Okay, that one looks. Twin Dragons looks adorable. You get some 8 and 16-bit sort of games, and that's a Game Boy game, Dadius. Here, okay.
Yeah, there's some of the Game Boy homebrews on there too. So with all of these cartridges, you see them attacking different systems as well. So when you start seeing, like, it's exciting to see this Indie Heroes collection that has some of these Game Boy games on there, because then you're like, well, what else can they license from Game Boy that we might see on here in the future?
You could get a Game Boy pack maybe if they get
one thing that I would really like to see is PC Engine stuff. There is that Namco Collection Cart 2 that I bought that one too. I bought 2 carts. I bought that one. Actually, I bought 3. I'll get into the other one in a minute. Because that one has Splatterhouse 2 and 3 on it, but not 1.
Yeah, I noticed
it was like
that.
if you got PC Engine emulation going on here, it would be awesome to have all 3 of those on one cartridge.
I noticed that. I'm like, it's weird to have 2 and 3, but not 1. I was like, Yeah.
Or, it would have been cool to maybe see Wanpaku Graffiti translated, since they've already brought over some other Namco stuff. That would have been cool to see on that cartridge. So obviously I can complain about, selection. We all have perfect collections in our head.
Sure. But I mean, it's usually these are like $20 for a collection. Well,
Yeah, I think they're
with a
$20.
protective case.
Yeah,
Which I like, by the way.
Obviously, this is
And it stayed in when I dropped it. Look at that, it works.
They're really appealing to collectors here.
Yeah.
Plastic clamshells, full color manuals. Definitely should point out full color manuals.
Oh yeah,
it's not
little
something
manuals.
you get in even AAA $60 games anymore.
It's adorable.
And the collections they go through, and they usually tell you just a little bit of info about them. So yeah, I don't know. I went into my whole experience with the Evercade was like, this is definitely not my thing, but I've found that it's pretty conducive to picking up and playing. I say this, and I mean this the nicest way possible. This could take the place of the Reader's Almanac in the or the Reader's Digest in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Put an Evercade on the back of your toilet.
Have a little toilet paper holder. But you have an Evercade stand right next to it, so you can pick.
If Evercade is listening, I do have one suggestion. I do have a Dream cartridge, and it's one that I feel like that should be doable. I would love a Activision Atari collection.
Oh, that's an
Activision Atari collection would probably never leave my Evercade. It's exactly what I'm looking for. As of right now, I played a lot of Yar's Revenge last night.
Okay.
That's on the Atari collection
Our
too.
pal,
But
Howard Scott Warshaw.
It's one of my favorite video games of all time. Thank you, Howard Scott Warshaw.
Howard's the best.
It's just so good. That game is so good. Anyway,
so your wish list is PC Engine Turbo games. I agree, that'd be great.
I would love to see that. Love to see an Activision cartridge, and I would really like to see just more modern indie stuff. That's what I would like to see. I think I think after a while you're gonna you can't go back to the well is only so deep in terms of stuff that you can publish on these cartridges that people want. So I think modern indie and homebrew is definitely going to be the future for this, or one of the futures. The other thing that they've announced, and this takes care of a lot of the concerns I mentioned with these carts, they are doing arcade cartridges. They're starting this year, and it's not a lot of those. I don't think come out until October or November. But I think there's a Data East arcade cartridge. There's going to be a Technos arcade cartridge, and I think one other company.
A Data East arcade cartridge is huge because there's no way I'd play Bad Dudes NES over the arcade version.
Oh, it's awful. But the Data East arcade cartridge, I think, has Sly Spy on it.
Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you. So underrated.
Here we go. What's that one going to have? Because, I saw that one and I was like, see, this is the one that I think Pat would enjoy. So it'll have Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, Breakthrough, Burger Time, Chain Reaction, Sly Spy, Lock and Chase, Darwin 4078, Dark Seal, Tumble Pop, and Wizard Fire. So, I want that. I will not fire up the Burger Time that's on the Data East cart. That's now because it's the NES version.
I wonder if they can do a Neo Geo emulator on there. Do that? That'd be cool.
I don't know. I've heard that they can get up to 32-bit. I don't know what this thing can actually do.
It has save states on this, obviously. The one thing I'd like to add, Ian mentioned they might be adding it, is remapping buttons. So the only thing I was playing, what was I playing? Xevious, I believe. I was surprised that, the A and B buttons, which are like the B and A NES buttons are on here, but it's at the angle going up to the right. I would love to have used the X and A buttons for my B and A. It's more comfortable on the thumbs, especially if you're hitting two buttons at once, and there's no option to do turbo. So I was like, okay, you're only using 2 out of 6 buttons. Why not use the triggers for turbo? So that's the only thing. Give me a remapping and a turbo option. I'd have no complaints at all.
Sure.
That's it. I mean, it's an emulator, so in theory, you should be able to potentially add that in, and that's it. When it comes to so thanks to Evercade for sending us this out. Maybe we'll see a podcast version at some point. We'll get the complete unnecessary console handheld version. We'll do the Pat and Ian multi-cart, which would be I don't know, all the Mappy games, Rolling Thunder, Sly Spy. It'd be a mix-up though between all different publishers.
Yeah,
it would be costly. We probably could do just a Namco one with enough Namco games.
Most likely
to fit on there. Let's see, we do Galaga, Mappy.
That's on Namco too. Yes, I know what you're saying.
We'll do all the ones with Rolling Thunder. We get the collection, the handful of ones we like there. All right, thanks, Blaze. Appreciate it. We don't do many product reviews, but it's a good one out there. And by the way, it's not super expensive either. You get I think you need the premium. Let's see, the premium.
So in the US, the premium pack is the system, the Data East cartridge, the Atari One cartridge, and Interplay collection.
It's $100 on Amazon.
$100. So the system in 3 carts. I don't know what the standard units are on their own anymore. I think in the UK they were like 40 pounds. So it's a really reasonably priced system if you need something to pick up and play.
Sure. There you go.
And it's a proof that I can change my opinion on things.